Hello guys, welcome back to another video. I got a bunch of thrift finds for you today, including what I think is a sequel to that last video I did, the Mega Thrift Haul, and a few random ones I'll start off with. I've got some record fair finds I think I'll save for another video. I'll maybe do them back to back or something like that, just to kind of keep them a little more concise. First off though, I got to give a shout out to DJ Trish Mullins. Came through with some more of her famous VCLT. Check her out there on YouTube, of course. She sent me a couple of her recent mixes, holding on to yesterday. Nice mix of stuff in there, lots of classics. And Dance Club 2017. Thank you once again, Trish. Always generous. She takes all these diverse tracks from different artists and somehow makes them all flow together in these mixes. It's quite an art to it. I don't know how she does it. But getting into the thrift finds, first off, I found this one. I'd never seen or heard of this one before, I don't think, but it looked interesting. Blue Sky by Greenfield. It's actually Barry Greenfield. And in researching this album, I found out he's actually local to me. He was from Vancouver, Canada. In 1968, he flew to London, England to answer a call from Apple Records, which was signing new artists at the time. He got to meet with John Lennon. He got some praise for his songwriting, but it took a few more years for his own recording career to get off the ground. And he came out with this album in the early 70s, 1973, recorded in LA with kind of session players like Larry Carlton, Russ Kunkel, Larry Knechtel, so kind of those Wrecking Crew type guys. He had a song on here called New York is Closed Tonight, which was apparently the most played song on Canadian radio in 1972, I read. It was new to me. Kind of socially relevant song about what was going on at that time. But the rest of the album is in quite a Cat Stevens style in that early 70s. Kind of a softer singer-songwriter kind of approach. I think he did one more album after this at least, and then kind of stepped back from the music industry to become a financial advisor. And I think he's been doing a bit more music in recent years. Seen this one around before, I'd heard of it, never checked it out before. I found this copy in a thrift that was just too clean to pass up. Garland Jeffrey's Ghostwriter, 1977. He's another singer-songwriter in kind of that very Billy Joel-esque East Coast kind of style, very meat and potatoes rock and roll, rooted in that. He's also got quite a bit of reggae on here. There's a few tracks with Earl Wyalindo from Bob Marley's band on percussion and some other players. So some real mix of kind of grassroots rock and roll with some reggae. He's got a song called Wild in the Streets on here, which was covered by a number of other artists and relates the tale of a teenage crime that happened at the time. So interesting stuff there. Found this one, second Jazz Impulse thrift find I've had recently. Gabor Szabo, his great hits. This is from the early 70s. See the quite psychedelic artwork. There is some kind of psych-influenced stuff on here and covers of songs of the day, like, what do we got on here? White Rabbit, Jefferson Airplane, Gatefold, and it is on, cover is in quite bad shape actually, but the record is actually pretty decent, Impulse label. Jazz guitar, kind of gypsy, I would say flamenco flavored, but with some psychedelic influences with sitar and just cool stuff on here. Very nice to pick that up. This was another very nice jazz pickup. Thelonious Monk, Monk's Dream, 1963. Mono copy on 2i Columbia, Canadian pressing. Nice heavy pressing. Had a few marks on it. I was a bit concerned, but I ended up playing very, very well. A little bit of surface noise in a couple of spots. Cover in good shape too. Old price sticker for $14. I paid $2 for it. Very nice. Very happy to add that to the collection. Great jazz classic. This was another shocking thrift find. Just totally random. I don't think I picked up anything else that day. I showed that Brian Eno album, My Life in the Bush of Ghosts, recently. About a week after I found that record, in a different thrift store miles away, I found this one, Discreet Music. This is originally released in 1975. I believe this is a 80s pressing. It is just practically mint except for very slight cover wear and a little sticker there. This is more in the ambient style of the time, very hushed. It's meant to be, music is meant to be part of the surroundings, was kind of the theory that he was working on at this time. So very stunning find. Still can't get over it. 2 Eno records in about a week in thrifts. Different ones. So not from the same collection. Okay, getting into the haul that was all of one piece. You saw my, probably saw my mega thrift haul video from last time. That was on a week. About a few days later, probably the next week, I popped back into that store again where I found all that stuff. And this stuff was here. First off, some country, a portrait of Patsy Cline from very shortly after her death, some liner notes about the accident that claimed her life on there. It's on Decca, and I usually find these things scratched all to you know what. This one is actually in pretty decent shape, so kind of hard to pass Patsy Cline up when you see them in playable condition. Now, quite a while back, I had made a video where I talked about this on the YouTube Vinyl Community Facebook page as well. I'd found what I thought was Johnny Cash's debut album for 50 cents in a thrift store. Got it home, pulled the record out, and found out that it was his second LP on Canadian pressing inside the jacket of the first album, which I was kind of confused because they both had, I think, Folsom Prison Blues or one of his well-known songs on there, and that was kind of all I focused on. Well, this time I actually found the actual record. Johnny Cash, debut, 1957, Canadian pressing. I'll show you this one. Beautiful condition on this. Canadian pressing on London. Excellent shape for a 60-year-old record. And this has got all the classics on here. Rock Island Line, Cry, 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 I Walk the Line, Folsom Prison Blues. So I got the first and second album, both on this Canadian cover. So very happy to find that one for sure. Now I just got to find the cover of the second album. And I'll be able to mix and match them. Also there, Mama Cass, Dream a Little Dream. I think this is her debut solo one. I don't see this one around too often for some reason. RCA. Very nice folk rock by the member of the Mamas and Papas, with her big hit, of course, on there. This one was a real weird find. I don't think I'd ever seen this one on vinyl. Kind of from the same time period as the Mama Cass. Actually, after I picked this one up, I saw a copy in a record store. It does go for a few bucks, but I couldn't not pass this up. It was too weird. It is Tiny Tim. God bless Tiny Tim. Late 60s. Debut album. Reprise, tricolor. Very nice shape on here. Just a bit of a cutout hole punch. Slight bit of ring wear. Excellent condition. Put it on as kind of a joke, and actually it's pretty interesting. It varies from that really twee. Thank you UK guys for that word. I love that word. We don't have that over here, but we don't have anything kind of similar to that. But a great word to describe Tiny Tim. Tiptoe Through the Tulips. But there's actually more to it than that. There's a bit of psych. There's he was kind of a musicologist looking into his life, actually. He knew a lot about early American pop music from the 1800s and early 1900s, and he brings back some of those songs, a bunch of old Irving Berlin songs and stuff like that, and brought them back into the 1960s and did his quirky covers and that high falsetto with his ukulele playing. And then a bit of rock, folk rock, a bit of psych on here, kind of a mix of styles. but just weird, but cool. I put this on actually this morning for the first time, and my 5-year-old and I were just killing ourselves, laughing our heads off. I don't think that one's going to get too far from the turntable. He's going to want to hear that one again, because he was just about peeing himself laughing. And carrying on with the Thrift hauls, Souther Hillman Furay Band, kind of country rock. Of course, these guys all had pedigrees in various bands. Haven't listened to that one yet, but I pretty well know what to expect. Picked this one up. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep it or not. It's in such beautiful condition, it's hard to part with. I'm sure it's not going to sell for too much. James Taylor's Greatest Hits. Probably got all the songs on the individual LPs, but beautiful condition on this one. Last few, and in that previous video I'd shown some kind of late 80s vinyl. I'm kind of realizing I don't see much on vinyl from the albums that came out in that period. Of course, CD had kind of taken over. Cassette was in its heyday as well. Kind of unusual in my area to find vinyl from that time, and I'm always kind of surprised that they don't seem to sell for too much. But first up, Terence Trent D'Arby introducing the Hard Line according to 1987. Sign Your Name, and I think Wishing Well were the big hits here all over pop radio. For the longest time you'd see this on CD quite commonly, but don't recall ever seeing the vinyl around. Of course, he famously declared it was the most significant album since Sgt. Pepper. Kind of mixes up a bit of world music in there, almost a bit of Afrobeat on one track, along with kind of commercial R&B dance pop. So interesting one. This one, Kate Bush, The Sensual World, 1989. I did not have this one before. I think this completes my discography of her albums up to the 1980s. And last up, Blue Rodeo, Outskirts. This is their debut from 1987. If you don't know Blue Rodeo, iconic Canadian band. This is their first album. The lineups have changed over the years. They're still active today, but it revolves around two guys who'd been playing together since school days in the 1970s. Jim Cuddy over here and Greg Keeler. They are the two main songwriters, and they have almost had a John Lennon, Paul McCartney thing going on, in that they're very different personalities who come together and craft these incredible songs. Jim Cuddy is kind of the country ballad guy, a very pure voice. He kind of does those big soaring ballads. The huge hit off this album at the time was Try, which was inescapable at the time. But and then Greg Keeler is a bit more of the rebel, brings a bit of the rockabilly edge to it, and did songs like Rose-Colored Glasses and Rebel. They are still active today. Actually, just found this in a thrift store the other day. It's their most recent album from 2016, 1000 Arms. Haven't listened to this yet, but there they are. A little older and grayer, but still going strong. So that's what I've got for you today, guys. I'll do another video with some record fair finds coming right up, and take care.